Today I want to go over 4 different setups that we had this week. 2 of them which worked out well, and then 2 of them which I did not trade, but definitely hurt a lot of people. So I want to show you some warning signs that the stocks had before they flushed down, or some signs that the stocks had before they went up and made big moves. And this is all in hindsight, but these principles carry over to real trading. So the first stock we have is VHub. This was on Tuesday the 17th, and around 7:30 it starts to pop up here. What we had here was volume increasing from this 556 shares to about 2,000, and then right here with the 29,000 is where we started seeing more volume come in the market, and we went from 277 up to 299, basically $3. Next, what happened was this candle right here. This is our first, caution sign. We have big volume, a lot bigger than the previous candles, 119,000 shares. But look, the price came down, little pullback, pushed higher, much higher in fact, almost 50 cents a share. And then came all the way back down, closing basically break even within that 1 minute candle. High volume. And then so we can see that doji right there, that huge topping tail, that's a big warning flag. This thing's either going to keep dropping further, or in some cases it will go higher, and we can see that right here. But a second warning is this topping tail right here. We can still see high volume, slightly less, but still pretty high volume relative to these previous candles. What happens is the price opens here, goes higher, and then gets pushed right back down. Yet closed higher than the previous candle, but it still got pushed down quite a bit, indicating a bearish move. Next, at 7:30 exactly, we can see it makes a big move from 308 to 353. Gets pushed down a little bit below the high of this candle, but still it's a pretty big move upwards, which would be surprising, and that might catch a lot of people. But you have to remember, a lot of people are holding from right here. They might have bought on this first candle up here, and then they're still at a loss. So when it comes back up, they're going to be selling. So it's extra selling pressure. And then this is still just not a good chart pattern. Next, we have this red candle, which is even higher volume. This is the highest volume candle yet, and it just flushes straight from 343 down to 312. And that's your first warning sign, is the fact that it just fell so freely from these highs back down. We're starting to see a pattern of it popping up and getting pushed right back down. And so at this point, you want to see that this is a huge volume red candle, and you want to get out of there. And you can see that it went from 316 all the way down to 250 in a 1 minute candle. Try to pop up again, and then got sold into right here. Next, I want to talk about ENVB, and this what seemed like a big move initially, how it faded into a dangerous trap. So immediately right here, 17,000 shares of volume. Next here at 802, we're going from 250 to 450. And then again, just like we saw previously, this big topping tail. It went up to 450, got pushed all the way back down to 370. Next up, again, price comes up, price goes down, but it meets, slightly lower than the previous candle. But what we got to pay attention to is the huge volume. Look at the volume on this. Over 1 million shares in that minute. And normally if I saw a pattern like this, even with the topping tail, I could consider buying the dip here. But when I can see the amount of selling volume that we have, there's just no way, when you combine this huge selling volume and this big topping tail, that's just way too much risk for me to enter into this trade. And so as I was watching it in real time, I had to just say, nope, I'm not going to give in to FOMO. Yeah, it made a big move, but I just don't see it continuing. And as we can see, it just rolled over, and for the rest of the day, it just traded in that 220 to 250 range. LRHC, this is a stock that I was green on this week. This was on the 18th. We saw it move here, 7:45 a.m. And what I liked about this stock initially was the fact that it held up well. It pops up here, has a slight pullback, moves higher again, has this 3-4 minute pullback, and then it just, goes higher and higher. And that's good because unlike those other stocks where they popped up and immediately reversed, this one at least held. So when you're looking in this area, you can see that, okay, it's come down a little bit, but it hasn't retraced like 50% of the move. It's still doing fine. Pushes up higher again, another little pullback, and it just continues this. And then right here, the move is kind of done. We can see the volume. This is still one of the bigger green volume candles at that time, but we get this more extended decline. And then what we got after that, period of consolidation, was this huge move, about 40 cents positive. And we can see that excluding this bar here, these are the highest volume candles. That's a really great sign. Yeah, the MACD was going negative right at that time and then quickly came back to being positive. And so throughout this whole move, I was trading it actively, and I did pretty well on that. What I just liked was the fact that it held up on that initial pop, and then we would go a little higher, pull back, higher, and pull back. It was a great textbook example of a nice stock to trade. But just for more information, a good point to know when to stop trading this move would have been right here. See how we're struggling to break this level here? And then look at this candle, flushes straight down. Look at the volume on this. These three bars here are pretty high volume. They're not higher than the green over here, but relative to the rest of the move, they're pretty high volume red bars. We have one pop up here, good volume, and then instant drop. And then after that, you can see that it kind of faded into the distance. RUBI was a nice stock that we saw on the 19th. First, I want to look at the float on this one. I remember this was pretty low at 502,000. And that's important. When you see a low float like that, it's a stock that I look much more carefully at, and I'm much more interested in a stock with a low float, with a low number of shares outstanding, than with one with a high amount. But when we look at VHub here, it's going to have 74.89. That's pretty bad. For the type of trading that I'm looking to do, that is way too high of a float for me to really want to consider that stock. So back to Ruby here. This moved up at around 5:30 on the 19th. We had this tweezer top here, and then kind of went lower, came back up, broke it slightly, and then rolled over. And at this point, you might think that the stock is completely done for. And if I was trading at 5 or 6 in the morning, I definitely would have thought the same, considering that it was struggling to break these levels and then just rolled over. But when I came back on at 7 is around where I normally start trading. You can see we have quite a lot of interest. You can see the volume growing right here, almost to the same level, actually higher than it was at the 5 a.m., which is a great sign. Shows that people are coming back to it. Maybe they're reading the news headline. Okay, we get that high right there of 327. Pull back, kind of grind higher a little bit, and then we drop here at 720. And then we immediately rip up past this high right here, and when we compare, we actually break the previous highs over here. So we break that, pull back, and I don't love the amount that it pulled back in this candle, but looking at the volume, that's super healthy volume, over 1 million shares. And then what also makes this a better trade is that the MACD opens up, so we kind of went negative here, instantly went positive, and then it held up. A lot of the other ones that we were looking at, they came back down, or they had a huge red candle, maybe a little green, and then another big red candle. But this one held up. And then a good sign to know when probably slow down on trading is when we could not break this level. So we broke it slightly, came back down, broke it slightly again, came back down, and then you got to see that there's just a huge amount of selling pressure in this level. So for a watch list on Monday, I'm probably going to be watching NCI pretty closely. You can see that it made this pretty big move. It almost doubled here from that low of 560 up to 10.99, and ended up coming to around $8 here. But look at this, the float on it, 751,000. So that's really exactly what we're looking for. It's priced right at that under $10 range, which is where I tend to do best at. Made this big move, pulled back, and then sure a bunch of people are gonna see this and realize this right here and see that low float, and then they're gonna jump on it tomorrow morning, and then I'm gonna be looking for a push back to testing this high. And then if it does end up breaking that $11, I'm going to wait for a pop above it, a retest, and then that break up hopefully to $12 or $13.